Earlier I did a guide on creating forms, and it ended up being quite long. So I thought I'd create another one, which is instead of a TLDR, a TLDW, which is basically, I'm hoping to create this very short and succinct video of creating the form, but without all the extra stuff. So I have my branches up to date. I kept the branch from the earlier, just in case there's conflicts or I forget something, I can get to that real quick. But I'm actually going to create a new branch and just call this one Forms. And I switched to that branch. That way I'm doing this work separately in case anything happens. I don't lose anything. And this is, I laid out a form in Figma. So if we look at it, it's basically just a real simple form with 4 text fields, a text area, and a radio button. There's 2 items that we don't cover in this, and that is a checkbox and a select menu. There's other that we don't cover, but those are 2 big ones that we don't cover. But if you look at W3 Schools, HTML forms, this is going to give you everything you need to know and step you through it. And then also CSS forms. This is styling for the CSS. So let's get to it. We've got everything down. We've got a branch. Let's go to the code. I already have a contact form created. This is when I was messing around with something, but it's out of date. It's not correct. And we have my index page, which I want everything to look like. We have the header and footer already created, so we don't need to, we don't want to have to recreate all that, and we want it to match what the header and footer is on the home page. So I'm going to go to index.html, do Command A for select all, Command C to copy it, and then I'm going to go over to the contact page, and I'm going to paste that in, except I just pasted it into the center. I'm going to select all and then paste again. So now we've got a contact page that mimics the home page. I'm going to go down to the main section here, and I am going to highlight everything that is in between the main and section, delete it, and so now we have an empty section, and that's where we're going to put our form. First part of it is we want to do the content first. So we have an H1 that is, let me go back to this real quick, get in touch. So H1, get in touch. Then paragraph, that is interested in working together. And then the second paragraph of tell me a little bit about your project, and maybe we can collaborate. I know this wording isn't exact, but we can go back and edit that at any point in time. So we basically got our text. I'm going to keep saving this as we go along. And now we're actually do our form. So we'd start a form with form, action equals, and I'm just going to put a empty tag here, or empty action, because we're going to do that in the next video. The action is what happens when you click the submit button. So that's where it goes, or what it does. And then the method is going to be post. And basically this is going to give us some additional benefits of length of what can be entered. If we did a method of get, it would limit us as to how much data we can send. So our first text field, the way we do a text field is input type equals text, and name equals, and this is going to be first name. So I'm just going to shorten it up and say F name. And what this does is this creates just the field itself. It doesn't actually do anything. So if I save that and I go back over here to our page, maybe bring it back up here, maybe. Here we go. You can see that this is the completed form from earlier. See, get in touch, interested in working together, please tell me about, and it's just a field. Doesn't do me any good. I need some text around it. So I'm going to go ahead and put in, I'm going to give them a hint, a clue. Say first name, and this time I'm going to put a colon after it. And if I do this, it is going to put the first name in, but it's just going to put it right next to each other. And you can see by the form, we have first name, last name, and they're all spaced out. So to control that, I'm going to put a span around it. And the span is because I want to have it act like a block here, but when I go to a wider screen size, I want it to act as an inline element. So this is going to let me control it for two different ways. We'll do class equals form label, and close the span. And since we have 4 of these that are really close to the same, I'm just going to highlight these, copy, paste, paste, paste. And then I just go through and edit them so that they match up correctly. So last name, now the next section that we need to add is the actual radio buttons. The radio buttons, I'm going to wrap them in a div so I can control how they display a little easier. And then I'm going to also wrap those within a span. So we're going to kind of double things up here a little bit. Div, and we'll give this a class equal to radio container. And with radio buttons, it's input type equals radio. And then the name has to be the same. So in this case, we'll call it preference, because what we're wanting to do is catch their preference. So radio type, or type of radio, name of preference. And if I don't put anything after this, all it's going to do is create a dot. Doesn't do me any good. So I need to tell them what it's for. So the first one is going to be email address. And then, and I forgot I was going to put this in another, I'm going to do another span. And class, and I want these in 2 columns. So I'm going to do 2 column. From the earlier video, we found out that we can't name a class with starting with a number. We'll do span, close the span tag, and copy this, paste it, close the div. So that's done. And preference, and this one is going to be phone. So basically now they can tell me what method they want to be contacted. And then the last thing in this is the text area. And that is, once again, same sort of deal. we need a form label and an input. So I'm just going to copy and say details. And instead of an input, this is actually text area. And it has a name as well, text area. And we'll say details. And the unique thing about a text area is it actually has a closing tag. I'm going to just go ahead and put it on the same line. You could put text in between it and it would show up in the box. So we'll just close it and leave it at that. And then the last thing we want is the actual buttons. Now, we haven't done any styling at all yet, so we're going to go back and do the styling next. But we need to take care of this. So we're going to have another div. And because we want these buttons in a two-column manner as well, we're going to do div and class equals, and this one we're going to say button container. And we are going to do a input. And the type equals submit as a spatial type. It basically creates a button. If we give this a value, the value is what's going to show up on the button. So the first one is send. And the name is submit. And this tells it to actually submit the form. And then another input. And type equals submit again. Value equals, we'll say cancel, because if somebody wants to do it, and name equals cancel. Now, these have spatial values once again. So if the person clicks on cancel and it has a value or name of cancel, it'll cancel the form. Close that, close the div, and we need to wrap these in the spans as well. To save from typing, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and that, and copy the closing span tag as well, and paste them here. I'm going to save this. I haven't closed the form yet, so let me close the form. And we should be good to go. So I'm going to click save. I want to look and see what we have so far. So let's go back here, click refresh. Everything's run together. We need to do some styling, but other than that, we should be good. So now we're going to just work on the style sheet itself. I could create a separate style sheet that's called forms.css, which would format the forms. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and put this right inside the main style sheet. This is in the main area. So I'm going to create a small section here that is styles for forms and end of styles for forms. And so the first thing we want to do is we want these divs to act as a block element, and we want these to be the full width of the screen. It's based on this here. So looking back at our contact page, we have form label and input type of text. So let's go to the styles. So span dot form label display block, and the input type equals text. And what this says is if it's an input tag and it has the value of type equals text, it will affect that. We'll just say width 100%. And one of the things I noticed is that the font size is really small on this when I did it before. So font size is 1 rem. Save this, and let's see if that helps anything. All right, so we're looking better, right? I can put in my name. Font size looks relatively okay. But first name, last name, email, all the way down through. I forgot to put the label for preferred contact method. So let's take care of that, and then we'll take care of the details and these lining up correctly. So input type equals text. Back in the contact.html, I need a label here. So I'm going to copy this, and it's for the preferences. I'm going to go ahead and put this before the container, and I'm going to say preferred contact method. Save that. I know that form label works. That works the way it does. So now we need to do this radio container and get these columns to work. And the way we do that is we use the display flex box like we did in the header. Right here we have display flex and then flex 1 for these. So we're going to go back down here, and this is for radio container dot, because it's a class, dot radio container. And we know we're going to do this for the buttons as well. So I want both of these to display flex. And so I'm going to do button container as well, except it needs the dot in front of it because it's a class. And let's do display flex. And then inside those two containers, we have a class that's 2 column. So dot 2 column flex 1. Well, this is a bit of a misnomer because if I have 3, it's going to end up being 3 column instead of a 2 column. But for our purposes, 2 column will work. So I'm going to save this, and let's see if I did this correct. All right, so that works. We have these are off. Might want a little bit more space between the radio buttons and the content. If so, you would you'd wrap these in a span and then put a space on them. And I want these send and cancel buttons centered. So on that, what I would do is dot button container is text align center. Refresh that puts them in the center. These are a bit small. So what we can do here is in this, we'll do the same thing. These are input, and type equals submit. That should bring these both. Oh, that's going to be width of 100%. We don't want to do that. I'm going to cut that out. Down here at the end, paste that back in. Input type submit. Font size 1 rem. And then we want to also do the text area. So text area width. %. And we want to set the height. I want about 5 rows. So if we use REMs, 5 REMs would be just the 5 times the height. There's going to be some spacing between the rows of text. So I'm going to say 6 REM for text. Save that. Let's go back and look and see what we have. That didn't work. This looks better as far as font size goes. Oh, it's not text dash area, it's text area. Save. Refresh. Now if I do... Okay, so the font size is really small on this as well. Font size 1 REM. I'm not real sure why the font size is small. That's something we're going to have to look at. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe more than 6, but that gets a basic idea. And that's how you do a form. The next one's going to be how to put a action on this and actually do something with it. There you go. I thank you and have fun.